Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Bobby Neal Jackson. Bobby is a leadership consultant, and what he does is he helps take organizations and teams to new levels of success through productivity and purpose-based consulting and practices, and of course, his pillars to success. Bobby, so glad to have you on the show today, my friend.
Great to be here, Tara. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Bobby and I, for everybody's benefit, we have worked together and had many, many, many calls together. And Bobby has a lot of very valuable insights into this word purpose. Now, the word purpose can have a lot of meanings. We can think of a life's purpose. We can think of a purpose that we have within an organization, our career. And it's so exciting when we really align with our purpose because nothing makes us more confident than finding our strengths and really leaning into things that we're just naturally good at. Don't you think, Bobby?
Absolutely. So, defining your purpose, understanding and uncovering at the core of who you are, has an amazing impact on just how you feel, how you approach every day, that way that you come into, whether it's your work, your relationships, the societal things that you do, whatever it is, and however you find that purpose being used, it gives you a whole new level of confidence to be able to impact what you have around you. The things that you have that you're trying to accomplish. So 100%.
Yeah, and especially, when we think of, as a leader within an organization, putting people in the right spots, right? Because you can have top talent within an organization, but Bobby, if you put them in the wrong spot, no matter how talented somebody is, no matter how smart somebody is, they're going to feel like they're a failure, right? They're going to feel like a deficit, like there's something not quite right. And then it's not going to ultimately lead to the benefit of the organization long term either. So there's a lot that goes into this that honestly a lot of companies really need to take a close examination on is finding those alignments within their organizations because ultimately that makes employees feel confident in their jobs. And what does confidence in your job translate to? It kind of translates to I'm going to stay longer. I'm going to be more engaged, right? So it's a trickle down effect almost, don't you think?
It really is. So as a team leader, really it doesn't matter if you're in sports, organizations, churches, even if you can identify the natural abilities, those talents that your people have, and then you can align that with your organizational purpose, you produce a confidence in them. And it's not just because they're confident in themselves, but now it goes outside of themselves. It's that now they're having more of an impact. It's not just I'm coming to work for a paycheck. It's now the work that I'm doing. I'm not only using the talents that I have, even though that's a large part of it, but now it's I'm using the talents that I have to truly make an impact and make a difference. And when you do that and you align those things, the societal purpose that people have, the organizational purpose that people have, and then that vocational purpose, those natural abilities that they have to do work, which I assume we'll get into. When you can align all of those, it not only produces confidence in that, but it produces a feeling of a calling. And
Ooh,
that is really where you see a tremendous amount of growth, not just for the individual, but also for your organization or for your team.
that's when you go into that transcendence point. Like,
Yeah,
don't you think where people feel that calling? Let's stick on that word just for a moment because honestly, that's a word that resonates a lot with a lot of folks right now. You know, Leaders or not, people want to find their callings. People want to know what they're supposed to be doing, right? Sometimes we know, sometimes we don't know. Sometimes we may, realize it, but lose sight of it for a while. Life happens, right? But this calling, I feel like a lot of people right now are leaning into this message of purpose and calling because they want to know that their life means more.
Yep.
And even within an organization, you want to know that you're contributing to that greater collective, that greater purpose. And what your role is in that is so important. What do you think about that, Bobby? Let's talk about calling.
Okay. Uh, yeah, I personally I realized this back years ago. I realized that doing some of the what I would consider more of the menial labor jobs, I almost felt like it was a calling, and I was thinking to myself, "Am I really made to do utility work?" For instance, I
Mhm.
was doing utility work, and I just loved it. And I'm thinking to myself, am I made to do this type of work? Because I love getting up every day. I love going to work. I love the people that I meet every day. I love the impact that I'm having. And it wasn't the work, it was the fact that I had uncovered unknowingly these natural abilities and talents that I had, and I had aligned them with a what I would consider like a societal or a humanitarian purpose also, which was I was meeting people every day and getting to have conversations and impact people's lives along with using my natural abilities and talents. And so it felt like a calling to me, and my company didn't have to call me and wonder where I was for work. Like, I wanted to go to work that day. I was getting paid pretty well, of course, and so for me, it was good getting up, going to work, doing my job, and at the end of the day, going home and having pride in what I accomplished that day, and not really knowing. But yes, it was a feeling of a calling, and I also, as I'm kind of went through in this progression of my career to where I am now, I've seen this play out, and I started to identify these things and understanding that if I could align and find the people on my team, their natural abilities, and then I could align that with the organizational purpose, and then with the societal purpose, and I could make sure that people were feeling all three of those in the work that they were doing, then productivity went up. People were happier. We had a great culture in our company. We were hitting our goals monetarily, financially. We were having a great impact in our company. So I apologize. Um, I had to I had to kind of come up with a way to do this today because of some things that I got called out to do. But ultimately, what I found was that if I could align those three, then it produced this calling in people, and it really impacted the organization and the team, with in many positive ways.
I love that. So, this applies to individuals, this applies to teams, this applies to entire organizations, right? Finding this purpose, this calling is so important, and it really helps people stay motivated, stay on track, right?
Hmm.
And it helps people. You want to get out of bed in the morning. And, for everybody's benefit, Bobby, just like you were saying, it wasn't that long ago you were in that general role. And then you went from that general role to an engineering role, that executive level, in a very short amount of time, really. And part of it had to do with you aligning with your purpose at work and your mindset, right? That mindset of, I'm going to deliver the best work. I'm going to deliver, I'm going to show up on time. I'm going to over deliver, right? I'm going to make relationships. I'm going to form trust with other people, and help others find their purpose at work, right? And alignments and things like that. So amazing career journey for anybody who's listening, that the bridge, I always talk about this, the bridge to success doesn't have to be a really long bridge. When you find that purpose and you really align with it, success kind of starts coming to you. It's almost like a magnetism, don't you think?
I do. In talking about the career journey, basically, a few years back, I would say 6 or 7 years ago now, I developed carpal tunnel syndrome. And I couldn't do the work that I was doing. Had to have surgery. Basically, went from what I was doing at the time to not having any job. So I started at ground zero. And it's like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
At the time, I have a family, a beautiful wife, and at the time, 7 children. And so it was like, okay, I've got to do something. And I really started to dive into, okay, well, what's this purpose, and kind of these feelings that I had been having up to that point. And I really started at that point saying, okay, I'm going to really dive into the things that I know are my purpose. So uh, I started to look at these things, started to read about them, started to delve into them, and really started to push looking for a way to leverage those natural abilities that I have, and started to understand how organizational alignment and the humanitarian side of societal purpose played into that. And within 4 years, I went from pretty much starting again at zero to becoming an executive level engineering manager for a modular construction company
Hmm.
with stock options and all of the things that come with that. And the only thing that I can look back and say, okay, that was definitely, what it was, or that was a big catalyst of that, was really understanding that, hey, there is a purpose here. There is a natural abilities that I have, and they are used in a certain way that you can leverage those to get the best outcome. And then you were talking about the companies, wanting that deliverable, but not having to worry about it, because I was coming to work wanting to do that and wanting to do my best. And that's the thing is,
Hmm.
when you are working in something that feels like your purpose and your calling, the companies don't have to worry about that. You want to go to work. You want to do your best work. Not only that, but when you leave at the end of the day, you're still thinking about your work, and you're sleeping and you're waking up thinking about your work, because it energizes you. It brings a joy and a satisfaction, a fulfillment that you don't get unless you're living in that pocket of using your natural abilities, aligning your purposes with the purposes of your organization and society.
I love that. And it comes down to the amount of action that we're willing to put into it, right? I think, we all have these unique abilities, these strengths, these untapped talents, but how much action are we willing to devote to something? And, it's there. It's in within all of our grasp, right? But we have to put in the work, we have to put in the action, otherwise it's all for naught, right? We've got to
Mhm.
put in what's required to accomplish those things, and you're the perfect example of somebody that has done that and is doing that. And that's why this is so powerful. You find your strengths, you align with them, and then you put in the action to accomplish those goals. And you know what? That keeps you confident. So that's another way to, develop confidence and to keep it. Keep aligning with your strengths, keep aligning with those things that make you feel purposeful. And we don't have to be good at everything. We certainly don't. I don't think that's written anywhere. And if it is, throw it out. We don't need it. You have to be good at the things that you're good at, right? And it's okay to not be good at everything. Find those things, those strengths, those talents, whatever, that make you feel purposeful, and lean into them. For me, I like teaching. I like coaching. I like speaking. So why would I do something that is has anything to do with other things other than that? It wouldn't fit my personality, and ultimately, I would think I was a failure.
Yeah.
And I'm not a failure, but I would be thinking that I was if I was doing something that wasn't aligned with a purposeful activity and with my strengths. I
Yeah,
think that's so
absolutely.
important.
So I've been mentoring, young adults now for over 20 years. And one of the things that I tell them, exactly what you just said, if you want to be a better person, you find the things that you're weak at and you get better at those things. So you become a more well-rounded person. But if you want to succeed in your vocation, if you want to take your career to the next level, if you want to be more productive and get better results, then you find the things that you're strong in and you become the absolute best at those. And because it does give you this joy and energy, you start to attract the outcomes that you want, because it's something that you're radiating this confidence that you're talking about because you're working within that purpose that you have.
Yeah.
So that's 100% you're talking about. And I have kind of a real life example of what happens when you get outside of that. So, I just, as of December of last year, I resigned my position as the engineering manager that we were just talking about, and gave up that entire salary, executive position, everything that went along with it. And the reason I did that was because the organizational purpose and alignment had gone away. And it was because of some things that were happening in the business, and leadership decided to take things in a different direction. And then my job I was being required to do different things and I'm not saying that every now and then you won't be required to do things that aren't aligning with your purpose. That's not life. You're going to have to do things that aren't necessarily within your genius or your work, your natural abilities. But the thing is, if you're having to live in those things constantly, then they become frustrations for you, and you lose that energy and that joy and that fulfillment. And that's when you are going to work dissatisfied, and you get what I've heard people call the Sunday blues, that I call Monday mania, where basically you can't stand the thought of Monday because on Sunday you are just dreading the fact that you have to go to work the next day. And I had gotten to that point because so I work off of the working genius model when understanding my vocational purpose. And what that is work goes through these 6 phases, and really 3 phases with 6 characteristics or aspects of our natural abilities to perform that work. So work starts with this creation phase, and then it goes into a culmination phase, and then it goes into a completion phase. And so this first part, this creation phase, is ideation. You're thinking about the work and what needs to be done. You're questioning, is there a good idea here? Or is there a much better way to do this thing? Or is there a problem that we can solve? And then you're coming up with solutions for that in the ideation phase. And the working genius model that Patrick Lencioni comes up with in the 6 types of working genius is that creation phase is made of wonder and invention. So wonder being that questioning part, and then the I part being invention. Then you move over to the culmination phase, which is discernment and galvanizing. You're taking that idea that was made and you're discerning whether that idea is a good one or not. And you're saying, will this work the way that we planned it out? And then you're planning the work. So you're saying, how can we get this done? And then you're galvanizing people around that idea. And then the last phase, the completion of the work, you have enablement and tenacity. So you have people that will come alongside and help people move towards the goal, help the work get done. And then this tenacity is these people have this natural ability to just want to push things across the finish line. They want to get in there. They want to get into the details. They want to see things through. Well, for me, my geniuses or my natural abilities are wonder and discernment. So I'm very good at the ideation phase and the thinking through a plan and how is this going to work. But when it comes into enablement and tenacity, those are not necessarily geniuses for me, although they may be competencies. I may be able to do those and even able to do them well. But if I have to do them every day for long periods of time, it's frustrating. So as an engineering manager, I went from managing the team to then having to get into the details every day. And at that point, after so much time where I wasn't aligning with my vocational purpose anymore, and the company had gotten away from its organizational alignment, I was just extremely frustrated, burned out, was not doing well going to work. Mentally, I wasn't doing well anymore. And I decided to resign my position. And that's how Synergy Works Consulting was born. Started, working for myself and helping other people understand this concept and how this transforms teams, brings alignment, and ultimately brings better productivity and more results.
Yes, and synergy. That's why it's
Yeah.
called Synergy Works, right?
Yes, yes,
It's
that's right.
synergy at work. I love it. And when you find these working geniuses, there is synergy, and that's where I said a little bit ago, it goes into that it's a different vibration.
Mhm.
It's a transcendence that happens when everybody is working in their individual areas with competency and precision and purpose. And it
Yeah.
it, it goes into just a different transcendence of what leadership really should look like ultimately. But I love this. This is so powerful. You know me very well.
Yeah.
What now I would be curious, what do you think my working genius is?
If I had to guess, and this is interesting to think about this. So everybody only has two, and this has been proven now over a few thousand case studies, is that everyone only has two of these six geniuses. So if I had to guess, I would say likely yours are invention because you are a creative,
Yes, yes.
and enablement because
Ooh,
you love to help people.
I do. I think you're right. You hit that on the head. I think you called me an inventor one day, and I didn't quite understand, but it's a creative approach. It's a creative mindset, right?
Mhm.
Um, you're more analytical. You've got an engineering brain. I'm more of creative. I see the whole picture. Um, you pay attention to all the details. I see the global view, right? I guess that's maybe, the difference there. But
Mhm.
enablement as well, getting all those pieces together. And it's fun to work with other people and build something together. I think you hit me right on the head there. That sounds great.
Now, the interesting thing is that you have those two other things at the other end of the spectrum that are your frustrations. And then you have the two in the middle, and those are kind of, you can be competent at those, but if you have to do those too much, then they can become frustrations as well. And that's what people really have to be aware of. There's all of these different personality profiles out there, and we do the disc profile, and we do the enneagram, and uh, all the other ones out there, and I've been through all of them. I love them because I'm a discerner, so I love seeing those things play out, and I like to know more about stuff and people and things, and I love to analyze like you were talking about, but none of those ever told me how I fit into the process of work. And that's where this idea of the working genius comes from, is because you can understand about yourself, but that necessarily isn't who you are when it comes to getting work done. And that's where I think those more common personality assessments kind of miss the mark when it comes to helping people in their careers. Is, yeah, you might tell me how I like to manage, or you might tell me how I like to be managed, but what kind of things do I like to do in the process of work? And what's going to help me elevate my career? When I started realizing that wonder and discernment were where I really started to get strong, and um, I could leverage those, then I started to look at, okay, I'm really good at that, and I'm also really good with people. So I can marry those two things, and I can start to help people understand them. And then just in my other work that I do is, I look at processes, and I look at the way businesses are organized, and I look at how they develop their teams, and I help them do those things better because I ask the right questions, wonder, and I can see people's natural abilities and talents, that discernment, and help them marry those things and align their purposes.
I love that. And the results are more confident people, right? They
Yeah.
feel good about what they're doing. And if you're more confident, again, chances are you're going to be staying at that company longer. You're going to be way more engaged, way more productive. So, most organizations are focused on that end goal, right? And we've talked about this. Everybody
Mhm.
wants to sell more. But how do you get there?
Right.
You have to have the alignment first. So, in order to get that big goal, that scalability that you're looking for in an organization, you have to have that foundation, that groundwork of this organizational development, putting people where they're supposed to be, following up with training, right, Bobby? Because
Mhm.
it doesn't just end when you put somebody in their purpose. Even if you find that specific purpose for that specific person, it's one of those things you have to keep nurturing that, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's something that, yeah, you might get people in the right places on a certain task, or for a certain amount of time, but business changes. And so as business changes, as projects change, as deliverables change, you're going to have tasks within those deliverables that may not necessarily align with the people, even though they're in those positions. I had this when I took over a team a couple years ago, where I walked into the team and it was just completely, a mess. People not showing up, the work not being done, missing deadlines, and ultimately, what I did was I took the projects that we had that need to be done, the positions that we needed, and then the people that we had, and I listed the abilities that were needed to do each of those. And instead of going, hey, your position is this, so this is your job, I said, okay, this is who we have. These are the tasks that need to be done to move these projects forward. And I started assigning tasks to those people based on their natural abilities, their purpose. And then the confidence in the team went up, their productivity went up, and we started hitting deadlines. And we went from, you know, money is the whole reason we're there. And we went from having like 300,000 in backlog to over 3 million by the time that I left. So the team just completely transformed. And yes, confidence played a huge role in that, because these people were not confident when I walked in. But once I got everybody aligned correctly, confidence was through the roof. People were having fun at work. People loved coming. I didn't have to worry about where people were anymore. Just completely changed, transformed the culture.
I love that. And this is a prescriptive method, right? This is
Mhm.
not we're playing guessing games. This is we're making a list. This is what needs to be accomplished. This is who we have. This is what we need to do, etc. Right?
Mhm.
So this is a prescriptive approach, but it works, and we have to have this foundation and this groundwork in order to again enable that scalability of our organization long term and have longevity as well. It's so important. When an employee leaves an organization, it costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of money to retrain. It costs a lot of money. And a lot of companies have this revolving door. People are coming in and out faster than you can even train them in that 90-day period, a lot of times. So, this is extremely relevant. We can't move forward as organizations without having the team to back it up, period. So this is really essential, but I love your prescriptive approach of it. Um, Bobby, this was such a fascinating talk. It can't be our last one because we only really just scratched the
Yeah,
surface.
very.
We've really talked a lot about organizations and
Mhm.
purpose at work, but this goes for personal development as well as again it's something that we need to think about as leaders ourselves. What's our purpose and are we aligning with it? Um, and to give everybody some hope, when you do align with this, you will wake up out of bed. There's not going to be Sunday scaries, as they say. Monday mania is what you said, right? It's going to be, I can't wait to
Mhm.
contribute to something bigger than myself. That's
Yeah.
what purpose is. Any final parting words for us, Bobby? Any words of wisdom for either organizations or leaders themselves?
So organizations, I would say, culture is number one. To me, you have to show that you have a people-based approach to your business. If your people come in and they feel like money is the top thing, most of your talent uh, is going to walk out the door. That and really up and coming generations, these younger generations, they want more purpose with their doing. So that's the one thing I would say for organizations. With people, I would say that you need to find that purpose, those natural abilities, and then figure out how to leverage those in your life to make your work better, how to align those with the organizations that you pick to work for, and then how to align those societally too, so you have the greater impact. That would be, my words for them.
I love that's perfect. Brilliant. How can people get a hold of you, Bobby? Because you're high demand, business consulting. Everybody needs cultural improvement. I don't know if I have one company that I can think of right now that can use your help. So how could people get a hold of you for consulting?
Yeah, it's getting them to admit it. I think is the is the thing.
Right, exactly.
Um, they can reach me on LinkedIn, Bobby Neal Jackson on LinkedIn, and they can also go to my website, synergyworksconsulting.net. Uh, I'm working on the .com right now. That's been an issue for me, but so synergyworksconsulting.net, and then bobby.jackson@synergyworksconsulting.com is my email address, so they can also go there.
Awesome. Well, Bobby, thank you so much for being a guest on our show. This is probably part one of many, but I really appreciate you coming on today, sharing your knowledge, and thank you for being aligned with your purpose because I can tell nobody is more purposeful at work than Bobby Neal Jackson, guys. He is really aligned with what he is meant to do. So, thank you so much, Bobby. And thank you for everyone who tuned in today. We will see you on the next episode. Take care.